Have you ever sat down to work, opened your laptop, and then somehow ended up staring at the same sentence for 10 minutes? Have you ever replayed a conversation in your head again and again, wondering if you said something wrong? Have you ever planned your future so intensely that you felt mentally exhausted before even taking the first step? Let me ask you something uncomfortable. What if the real reason you cannot focus is not distraction, but your own thoughts? What if overthinking is quietly hijacking your brain, stealing your mental energy, and slowly destroying your ability to concentrate? And here is the scary part. Most people think overthinking means they are being intelligent. They think it means they care. They think it means they are responsible. But neuroscience tells a very different story. Overthinking does not sharpen your focus, it fractures it. And today, we are going to break down exactly why. Not in a motivational way, not in a surface-level self-help way. We are going deep into psychology, neuroscience, and the research of some of the greatest minds in behavioral science. By the end of this video, you will understand why your brain gets trapped in mental loops, how overthinking drains your cognitive bandwidth, why it creates decision paralysis, and most importantly, how to reclaim your focus. Let's begin. What overthinking really is. First, we need to define it properly. Overthinking is not thinking deeply. It is repetitive, unproductive mental rumination. Psychologist Dr. Susan Nolan Hoeksema, one of the leading researchers on rumination at Yale University, found that overthinking is strongly linked to anxiety, depression, and reduced problem-solving ability. She defined rumination as continuously thinking about the same problems without moving toward action. In other words, your brain feels busy, but it is not moving forward. You are not solving, you are circling. And here is the critical part. Your brain cannot tell the difference between imagined stress and real stress. When you replay an embarrassing moment in your head, your body reacts as if it is happening again. Your heart rate shifts. Cortisol rises. Your nervous system activates. You are burning mental energy for something that is not even happening. Now imagine doing this 20 times a day. No wonder you feel exhausted. The neuroscience of focus. To understand why overthinking kills focus, we need to understand how focus works. Your brain has something called the prefrontal cortex. This is the CEO of your brain. It handles decision-making, attention control, planning, emotional regulation. Neuroscientist Dr. Daniel J. Levitin explains that the prefrontal cortex has limited processing capacity. It can only handle a small number of thoughts at one time. This is called cognitive bandwidth. Now imagine your focus as a spotlight. When you concentrate, the spotlight shines on one task. But when you overthink, you create multiple spotlights. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if this is not the right choice? What if I regret it? Each question steals a portion of that spotlight. And suddenly, your task is no longer fully illuminated. You are trying to drive forward while 10 mental tabs are open in the background. Just like a computer, when too many programs run at once, the system slows down. Your brain works the same way. The default mode network trap. There is another system in your brain called the default mode network. This network activates when you are not focused on a specific task. It is responsible for self-reflection, imagining the future, replaying the past. Research from Harvard University found that people spend almost 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they are doing. Let that sink in. Almost half your life is spent somewhere else mentally. The problem is not daydreaming. The problem is uncontrolled rumination. When the default mode network becomes overactive, it pulls you into self-referential thinking. You become the center of every imagined scenario. You analyze yourself, you judge yourself, you predict failure. And every time this happens, your task-positive network, the system responsible for focus, becomes less active. It is like a mental tug of war, and overthinking is winning. The emotional cost of overthinking. Overthinking feels productive, but emotionally, it is brutal. Dr. Ethan Kross, psychologist and author of Chatter, explains that when we get stuck in repetitive negative thinking, our inner voice becomes hostile. Instead of guiding us, it criticizes us. Instead of supporting us, it magnifies fear. And here is what happens next. Your brain shifts into threat mode. The amygdala, your brain's fear center, activates. When the amygdala is highly active, the prefrontal cortex becomes less effective. That means the more anxious you feel, the worse your focus becomes. This is why, before a big presentation, you suddenly cannot think clearly. It is not because you are incapable, it is because your emotional brain is overpowering your logical brain. Overthinking does not just waste time, it chemically reduces your ability to concentrate. Decision paralysis. Have you ever struggled to make a simple decision? Which career path? Which relationship? Which opportunity? Psychologist Barry Schwartz calls this the paradox of choice. The more options we analyze, the less satisfied and more paralyzed we become. Overthinkers believe more analysis leads to better outcomes. But research shows the opposite. Too much analysis increases anxiety and reduces action. Your brain wants certainty, but certainty rarely exists. So you keep thinking and thinking and thinking. Meanwhile, time moves. Opportunities move. Life moves, and you stay still. Focus requires movement. Overthinking creates stagnation. Why intelligent people overthink more? Interestingly, research suggests that highly intelligent individuals are more prone to overthinking. Why? Because they can imagine more scenarios, more outcomes, more risks, more what-ifs. But intelligence without emotional regulation becomes mental noise. The ability to see possibilities is powerful, but without control, it becomes overwhelming. This is why some of the brightest minds struggle with anxiety. Their brain is powerful, but it never turns off. The dopamine illusion. There is also a reward component. When you analyze something deeply, your brain releases small amounts of dopamine. It feels like progress. It feels like you are doing something important. But thinking is not the same as acting. Your brain mistakes mental rehearsal for achievement, and that illusion keeps you stuck in thought loops. You feel busy, but you are not advancing. And over time, this habit rewires your brain. Neuroplasticity means that whatever you repeat becomes easier. If you repeat overthinking daily, your brain becomes better at overthinking, but worse at focusing. The hidden identity behind overthinking. Here is something deeper. Many people overthink because it feels safe. If I think about every possible mistake, I can prevent pain. If I prepare for every worst-case scenario, I will not be surprised. But this is an illusion of control. Life does not reward endless analysis. It rewards action. And when your identity becomes, I am someone who thinks carefully, you might unknowingly resist decisive action. Because action feels risky, thinking feels safe. But growth only happens in movement. How overthinking shrinks your present moment. Mindfulness researcher Dr. John Kabat-Zinn defines mindfulness as paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment. Overthinking is the opposite. It pulls you into the past that cannot be changed, the future that does not exist yet, and your present, the only place where focus lives, shrinks. You cannot focus on what is in front of you if your mind is somewhere else. And the tragedy is this: life is happening now. Not in your replay, not in your prediction. Now, reclaiming your focus. Now let us talk about solutions, because awareness without tools changes nothing. First, you need to separate productive thinking from rumination. Ask yourself one powerful question. Is this thought leading to action? If the answer is no, it is likely rumination. Second, use what psychologists call cognitive diffusion. Instead of saying, I am going to fail, say, I am having the thought that I might fail. That small shift creates psychological distance. Third, impose decision deadlines. Research shows that constraints improve clarity. Give yourself a time limit, then choose. Fourth, train attention like a muscle. Meditation has been shown in multiple studies to reduce default mode network activity. Even 10 minutes a day can improve focus control. Finally, replace mental rehearsal with physical action. If you are overthinking starting a project, take one small step. Send one email. Write one paragraph. Make one call. Action interrupts rumination. The emotional truth. You are not weak for overthinking. You are human. Your brain evolved to detect threats. But in modern life, the threats are psychological, not physical. So your brain keeps scanning. But here is the truth. You do not need to solve your entire future today. You only need to handle this moment. Focus is not about controlling every thought. It is about choosing which thought deserves your attention. Imagine waking up tomorrow, and instead of fighting your thoughts, you direct them. Imagine sitting down to work and feeling clarity instead of chaos. Imagine making decisions without replaying them for days. That version of you already exists. It is just buried under mental noise. Overthinking feels like control, but focus is power. And the moment you stop feeding unnecessary thoughts is the moment your brain begins to breathe again. So tonight, when your mind starts spiraling, pause. Ask yourself, is this helping me move forward? If not, let it pass. Your focus is too valuable to be sacrificed to imaginary scenarios. This is Minecraft Lab, and if you want to understand how your mind truly works, make sure you subscribe. Because once you understand your brain, you stop being controlled by it, you start controlling it.